Have you ever dreamed of publishing your book or closing sales before you even speak to the prospect? Michele DeFilippo, with 50 years in publishing, shares how to turn ideas into powerful tools, whether it's a best-selling book or an old school booklet that drives results. Her own booklet has generated hundreds of thousands of sales since 2012, I guess it is. And she's here to show you how she's done it and how we can do it too. So from avoiding publishing scams to creating lead magnets that work, this episode is packed with actionable insights. So stay until the end and learn how to get her free guide to quality self-publishing. So hit the play button, like and subscribe, and learn how to stand out, connect, and succeed.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where you will discover how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Paul Guyan, the mastermind behind the Lead Machine, introduces you to trailblazers who inspire you to implement life-changing solutions and systems you can model to nurture your leads and get your offers seen by your ideal clients who will invest in themselves and you. Be sure you visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, tune in and get ready to transform your vision into reality.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyan, your host, lead machine coach, and the founder of the Lead Machine Mastermind Group and Marketing Group. I'm dedicated to helping you tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream life and business. And so whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, let's get this conversation started and turn your dreams into reality. So Michele, welcome so much. I'm so happy to meet you, and I'm excited to talk about our topic today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Paul. I appreciate the opportunity to share what I know with your audience.
Well, it's my pleasure. 50 years of experience in book publishing. You've seen a lot of change in the publishing industry, haven't you?
That is true, yes. When I started at Crown Publishing in 1972 in New York City, everything was done by hand, and publishing world was very different than it is now. But the one thing that has remained constant is that a book should be high quality, and that's where I still work in that arena today.
Yeah, and so what was the spark that got you interested in book publishing in the first place?
Well, it was just dumb luck when I got the job at Crown, because I was going on interviews after school, after I got out of school, and Crown was the first place that offered me a job, and so I took it. But it turned out to be, I loved it from the beginning. I loved the idea that every project we worked on was new and different and creative, and it was just a good fit from the beginning.
And since the show is kind of lead generation oriented, back then at that time, were creators or authors thinking in terms of that, or were they thinking of just getting on the bestseller list or building credibility? What was it like back then?
Well, at the time, Crown Publishers was just a dinky little publisher on Park Avenue South in New York. It was not the powerhouse that it is today. So we did a little bit of everything. We did some mostly offbeat books that probably were not going to go anywhere, but Crown was a creative agency. They respected people who had kind of an offbeat message, and they did allow them to publish. So I got to work on some pretty cool books.
Yeah. What was your favorite book that you worked on, or some of the favorite topics?
Well, that's kind of a funny story, because I went to Catholic school and Crown was my first job. And one of the first books I worked on was The Joy of Sex.
Oh, wow. Really?
And my parents went nuts. But it was a bestseller. It was one of the first illustrated books about the topic of sex. And so that was at the time in 1972, that was just an earthquake in the publishing industry. But Crown was just crazy enough to think it was a good idea, and it was.
It was a good idea. And way back in the beginning, when God created man and woman, he created them male and female for a reason.
And they were
And
naked.
and they were naked. Yeah. And you wonder if he taught them how to, well, anyways, that's another story. But they had to learn somehow. So that's interesting. I'm also a Catholic, so we share that. What is a surprising fact that authors should remember about self-publishing? Because there's traditional model, and we're talking about self-publishing here. What is a surprising or important fact that they should know?
Well, self-publishing, when it originally started, meant that the author was the publisher, and the author kept complete control of their creative side and also of the financial side of releasing a book. Self-publishing was intended and still is intended to be a business. Now, in traditional publishing, which still exists, the author pays the expenses to produce the book. They hire the editors, designers, and so forth. And then they pay the author a small royalty, less than the full amount of the revenue from sales, in order to recoup that investment. And that's a fair business model.
Yeah.
Self-publishing originally meant that the author would make those investments and keep all of the revenue from sales, cutting the publisher out of the equation entirely. Now publishing has gotten very complicated. Now we have publishers that charge the author to produce the book and also keep most of the revenue from sales. It's not really good for the author. And that's why I started doing these podcasts, because there's a mindset. People just expect that they have to hire a publisher to publish a book, and you really don't. And authors need services to produce their book. That's what we provide. But the author should always remain the publisher so that they get the sales reports, they get the revenue, and they keep complete control of their book. That's my message.
Yeah. And if you think about we have a new creator mythology. There's creators out there who are creating content, but they're not really publishing books. They're publishing digital content, and they have complete control over that. And there are many ways to monetize that content. So we talked a little bit about different models. What is the publishing model that you think is, or was that what you just described, the most advantageous model for an author?
Yeah, you can find the horror stories online, but if authors stick with the original self-publishing model, which is that they hire the experts to produce the book, then and we can help them do all of this, they upload the book to their own print-on-demand accounts in their name. When you work with a publisher, the publisher uploads the book to their print-on-demand account, and the author loses control.
Yeah.
And, it's unfortunate now that there are some companies that don't have any integrity, and they don't give the author the true sales reports and don't pay the royalties. And that's awful. That's just terrible. But you can avoid that problem entirely if you control your own publishing enterprise, and that's what we help authors do.
So how do you know that the publisher that you approach, if you do approach one, how do you know that they're scamming you?
Well, you can't. You have to trust them. I've talked to authors who say that their publisher won't give them any royalty reports. They just don't do it. Or, they might pay them so much less than they should be earning, and they're not transparent. And that's a problem, because making a book takes a lot of work, a lot of time and effort on the part of the author. And it's just something that they should always keep control of.
Yeah. And obviously authors can make a lot more money if they have that sole control, and they've outsourced the services that they need. What about distribution and the marketing side of that's where the hard work begins, is after the book is written. Isn't that true?
That's true. People can't buy any product or service unless they hear about it first.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it is difficult and expensive to market a book. The distribution is automatic. The print-on-demand printers take care of that for you.
Yeah.
And we can facilitate that. But getting people to know about your book is the most difficult part.
And when is the best time to start getting the word out about your book?
Well, I think the first step would be to make sure you're writing a book that somebody wants.
Yeah.
What you should do is identify a problem and then write a book that solves that problem so that you're actually speaking to your target audience from the very beginning. A lot of authors miss that step. They write the book that they want to write and then hope that the market is out there. And that's kind of backwards, putting the cart before the horse. So do your research, figure out what's the burning problem that you know how to solve, that people are having, and then the book can solve that problem.
And those listening will recognize that advice, because that's true no matter whether you're publishing a book, a website, a blog post, a video, a YouTube channel, writing a song, a poem, doing any sort of creative work. If you want to have people to buy it and enjoy it, you've got to scratch that itch. So
Nice.
it's whether it's like The Joy of Sex. Wow, you wrote that book, and everyone is probably interested in that topic, even today.
I didn't write the book.
No, you didn't write it. You helped publish it, right?
I worked
Yeah.
on it.
You worked on it. Yeah. Sorry, but yeah. So that was definitely something that was useful and needed at the time, and I'm sure that probably sold very well. And there are other books on sex today that sell well, I'm sure. So what are some of the essential, so we're talking about self-publishing, we're talking about, okay, I'm going to be in control, I'm the author, I've got a great idea, I've done my research. Where do I start? What kind of services and people, what kind of help do I need to get to assemble a team to help me get it done?
Well, that's gotten very complicated too. If authors go to the internet or they listen to other authors, they might decide that they need to hire a book cover designer on Fiverr, or they can edit the book themselves with Grammarly, or they can format the pages of the book themselves in Word or Vellum or whatever program they've stumbled across. But that's not how a traditional publisher produces a book. And so what we advocate for is to follow the traditional publisher workflow, so that the cover is designed by an experienced cover designer, edited by a book editor, not just someone who calls himself an editor but has never worked on books. The pages are actually designed by a book designer. People don't know that. You take it for granted when you open up a book, but the pages need to be beautiful, and they also need to be functional so that the reader is not distracted by poor spacing and just odd paragraph breaks and odd things that can creep in if you don't know the rules of typesetting. So that's what we do. And then we proofread the book after it's been formatted, and then we make an ebook, and then we upload the files to the author's print-on-demand accounts.
Yeah. I hired someone on Fiverr to do an ebook cover, which I liked, and they did a good job. If I had to do it over again, I now that I know a little bit more about book cover design, I might have, since the kind of book was a business book, it might have been a different design. But I think I paid him $35 and came out with it. My business coach said he liked it, and people have downloaded it. And then I went back to the guy and I had them ask them to, okay, here's the content. I want you to design the layout. And he copy and pasted it. And I wrote it in Word, and I wrote it, I'm a Word writer. I write a lot. I know how to format and write in words and communicate. But that's exactly what came out. I'm like, I wanted a book design.
Yes.
And I didn't have the budget to go or the time. I was doing a speaking engagement, like in a week or 2 weeks. I forget what. So I ended up buying a designer program and doing it myself, which is not a good use of my time. And it came out okay. I was happy enough to publish it for on my website for them to download, but it needs to be redone. and that was very disappointing. And they offered, and they were very apologetic, but they're not a book designer. They're not a book layout designer. And so for those of you who are thinking, yeah, that should be a piece of cake, I'll just go to Fiverr. You need to make sure that person really knows and look at their work. If you're going to hire on Fiverr, look at their work, or better yet, hire Michele and her group. Right.
Well, I tell authors that they can spend more time in a bookstore if they want to start just internalizing what a good book should look like. Because if you compare the books on a bookstore shelf to what you might do yourself or what an amateur might do, you will immediately see the difference. But that's not often what happens. Authors tend to focus on what they can do, or what they try to find an affordable solution by someone who doesn't know the rules, and the results are not the same. But buyers know what a good book looks like, and when your book is up on Amazon, Amazon is going to show the best-selling books next to it, and so there will be a discernible difference. The book cover is not about what the author likes. The book cover is about what the buyer likes.
Yeah.
So you have to be sure you design it appropriate for the type of book it is, and that it's well executed typographically and with color and composition and balance and all of those things that designers think about.
Yeah. And now, are you a designer?
That's my background. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you see a lot of ugly stuff then.
Well, again, trends change, so you can't say this is the way to do it and this is not the way to do it. What you have to do is design your book so that it looks contemporary to what's being done by the major publishers now. Not copy the design, but just emulate it and try to make sure that it's as skilled as what they're doing.
Yeah. And so can you take something that was done and redo it and make it beautiful?
It takes a lot of skill. It's hard to describe. Okay, when you see someone who's wearing an expensive suit, you can recognize it, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be a tailor to recognize it. You just know there's something different and well crafted about it. And it's the same with a book cover, and that's what buyers are looking for.
Mm-hmm. And does that count on the bookshelf as well as on the digital bookshelf?
Yeah, it's even more important on the digital bookshelf because the first thing the buyer sees is an icon about an inch tall.
Yeah.
So the design has to hold up in that size. And then, of course, they can click through to the larger version. But digital has changed a little bit what book designers do, because we do have to make sure that it shows up an inch tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important. Now, when we first got introduced, there was mention of booklet, and I was reading your bio, and it said something about old school booklet. Now, that was interesting. I have a booklet right here. Isn't that a booklet?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is from my friend Tony Ribleski, and it's that tall. Is that what we're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like this. I read this in a really short time, and then I interviewed him about it because we're longtime friends, and I loved the format, and I want to do one of these. So tell us about booklets, and I didn't know that they were old school. So can we start there?
Well, they're old school compared to digital communications, right?
Yeah.
And it's becoming more and more difficult for people to find your message online. There's far more content than anybody can read, right? So what we help business owners do is to create a booklet that's about like the one you held up. Mine is called Publish Like the Pros. It's 88 pages. It's a quick read, but it gives them more information than they can get by reading a web page.
Yeah.
I suppose other business owners like myself have discovered that people don't stay on a web page very long.
No.
So,
Seconds.
but if they download a book, they might just read it, especially if it's beautifully designed and it gives them information that they want and that they need. I've gotten the feedback that people have loved the book, and when they come to me after reading the book, they're already closed, to use the sales term. They've already decided you're the person for them.
Okay. And so do you think it's because the book is tangible that it's so much more effective, or is there something inside that there must be an approach, a strategy that's used as a lead generation tool. And I
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
know the answer to that, but I want to know what your answer is.
You have to provide valuable information. It can't be purely self-promotional because people tune that out.
Right.
So, but most business owners already have the information in their head. It's what you say to prospects when you talk to them. It's what you say in a sales presentation. You know what to do. So all you need to do is put it down in a Word file in the best manner that you know how to do it, and then you could hand it off to someone like us. We'll polish it up, we'll design it, we'll make it a downloadable PDF that you can load onto your website, and use it as a lead magnet. People have to plug in their email address to download it, and that will get you unbelievable results.
Yeah. Wow. So do you teach them any of the languaging part, or I'm a marketer too, so calls to action and planting seeds along the way. I said, well, we can't, this is my framework for doing this, and here's how it works. But really, we can't delve into, I'll give you three of the five, but for the other five, contact me here. You don't do that. You don't do those kind of things.
Nobody falls for that anymore. I think it's on one level, it's insulting.
Yeah.
Give people what you know. If they recognize it and it resonates with them, you can't control whether it will resonate with them, but if you give, you'll get back. That's my belief.
Right. And reading a book is different than implementing what the ideas are in the book, and that's when they need you.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting to that third step in your framework, they might not know how to implement that. And you want to give them enough so they could, if they were smart enough, if they had the skills, they could go and do those things on their own, that's value, right?
Very few people have all the skills necessary to create a good book or a good booklet, right? It starts with editing, then cover design, interior design, and layout. Like I said, proofreading, ebook formatting. That's 5 different careers done well. Of course, you can try to do all of those things, but chances are you're not going to be an expert in all of them. And so that's where we come in. We make it, we make it easy for you so that you don't have to go out and hire 5 or 6 or 7 freelancers and try to manage that. You would have one point of contact with us, and we'll handle all of the work in the background.
Right. And so how does that process work? You just give you a document and you go to work?
Yeah, all we need is a manuscript, and then we'll start all of the tasks that it needs. We'll collaborate with you and communicate with you every step of the way. We usually exchange 200 or 300 messages with the client before the job is done. So it's just like having a partner, really, except that they're doing the work and you just get to collaborate and approve or change things.
Now, is that process expensive? Or is that a relative term, obviously? But is it tens of thousands or hundreds?
No. Although there are people who charge tens of thousands when they're claiming to help somebody increase their authority.
Yeah.
No. For us, I use a formula. It depends entirely on the length of the book and the complexity of it. We've done everything from little booklets like we're talking about to 850-page biographies of Winston Churchill with 4,000 footnotes. So
oh, wow. That's a lot.
We can handle it all, and it's priced accordingly.
So for a booklet, how many, yours is 88 pages. Is that about the average for
Yeah, I wouldn't go more than that because that's the typical, they can be read in an hour or so. And that I think attention spans have gotten lower since the internet came on board. We don't read 600-page novels anymore.
No, I know.
I
have a couple of books that are about that thick, and I will look in the index and read what really interests me, but I'll never read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just too much.
We're pulled in too many different directions now. I'm not sure it's good. I think we do need to learn how to focus again.
Yeah, I think having some quiet time is super important. In fact, one of my mentors is Hal Elrod, and he wrote a book, The Miracle Morning. I don't know if you've heard it, but I highly recommend it. It's about having a a period every morning, a period of time that you wake up and you do silence.
Mm-hmm.
It's called savers: silent, affirmation, visualization, exercise, and scribing or journaling. And he has an app and a process that he follows, which is a really a great way to start your day grounded and ready to go. So silence is golden. There's a song by Bobby Goldsboro from back in the 60s or
Yes.
70s that but there's no silence these days, is there?
Well, devices are addictive.
Yeah.
People used to laugh at me. I didn't get a cell phone until 5 years ago, and I was perfectly happy without it. And then I found that I couldn't put it down. And so now I deliberately try to limit just how much I interact with the thing.
Yeah. It's you could be doing so many other things instead of scrolling through a news feed from one video short to the next, to the next, to the next. And there's no continuity in between them.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that the algorithms know what you're doing, and they'll give you more of that,
Mm-hmm.
more and more and more of that. And that can get you into trouble too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's very addictive. So I like the idea of the booklet. How are some ways that your clients have used them to close the sale before they even speak to the prospect?
Well, just like I said, you're giving the information to people, and they can, if they have a PDF in their hand, they can read it, reread it, highlight it if they want to, and they can also skip around and just read the things that they're interested in. But you're giving them a gift, so that also works. They almost, it doesn't create an obligation necessarily, but if you are truly helpful to them, people appreciate that. It can't be a sale. Like I said, it can't be a sales pitch. It's got to be information.
Right. So you could mail these gifts, these little booklets, to some of your prospects, and use it as a prospecting tool. Is that how people use it?
Yeah, you don't have to print the booklet. You could give it away as a PDF on your website.
Yeah.
Although I did design a really nice brochure for my son, who's a realtor. It was filled with beautiful photography. He brings it on every sales call, and he leaves it behind, and it's working wonders for him too. So
Yeah.
I think in this age of constant digital interruptions and notifications and automated messages, I think it has a place still. I think people still appreciate the ability to stop and think and ponder and just be calm about it.
And sit down with a book. I'm reading a book right now that my wife and I read together every night. And it's nice because most of the time when we're relaxing, we're looking at our phones, and we're not always like connected and talking about the same thing. Although we do share about some of the things that we've discovered. She's a DIYer, a home remodeling DIY.
Wow.
And she's got tools and hammers and air guns and compressors and all kinds of crazy stuff that she does. She builds stairs and puts in flooring. So she's off studying that while I'm studying the things that I'm interested in, generating leads and computers and marketing and those kinds of topics. And so sometimes I say, well, what are you working on? She goes, well, I'm trying to figure this out. I said, oh, well, let me help you. So we do research each other's things. And then she'll say, have you thought of this? Well, if you're going to do that, well, how is that going to move your business forward?
Mm-hmm.
Those kinds of things. So
Mm-hmm.
there's good interaction, even if there's a cell phone involved or a smartphone involved.
I don't know about anybody else. Looking at my phone does not relax me.
No, it can really derail a good 30 minutes where you could be doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, well, I don't have time to exercise. And then they're doing this,
Mm-hmm.
going through their book. So
Yeah,
what are some,
we all have 24 hours.
yeah. let's see, what else do we have? What else have we not covered that you'd like our audience to know about self-publishing and getting started?
Well, the do-it-yourself message, of course, is really destructive. And I just would like to bring people back to the common sense position that we can't be an expert at everything, and that people are experts for a reason because it's what they do every day. And it's to your benefit if you hire an expert for anything, whether it's plumbing or crafting your lead magnet or helping you publish your book. It's just if you want good results, you have to hire someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. So marketing, right. And let me see. Are there any other resources that authors should look at to get inspired or to figure out how to discover their audience and what their pain problems is? I know that's kind of outside of the realm, but you've done it. You've done it with so many people. You said, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this kind of research? What are some tips there that you could provide us?
I can heartily recommend the Alliance of Independent Authors, and you will find that it's abbreviated, referred to mostly as ALLI, and they're based in the UK. Their website is allianceindependentauthors.com, I believe. Don't hold me to that. And but if you type in ALLI or Alliance of Independent Authors, you'll get there. They have a watchdog list that shows you who the good companies in the space are and who the questionable companies are. And they have all sorts of resources where you can educate yourself about the publishing business and make sure you don't make some of the most common mistakes that people make.
Yeah. And what are some of those common mistakes besides trying to do everything yourself?
Oh, just again, working with a publisher. You do not need a publisher. You need help to produce a good book, but you do not need to give control to anyone who calls themselves a publisher or a hybrid publisher or a self-publishing company, whatever they call themselves. They are middlemen who will control your book and take money out of your pocket every time you sell a book.
Right. Well, that's been very enlightening. I'm interested in getting a booklet done.
Good.
So we can talk about that in just a few minutes. But as we wrap up with your final words, Michele, what are 3 things that our listeners can do today to put these ideas into action?
Well, they can contact us at 1106design.com, and I promise we will have a respectful conversation with you to see if it's a good fit. I won't be rude and spam your inbox with 3 email messages a day just because you made contact with us. And we will just try to have a meeting of the minds, and if we can help you, we will. And if you think we can help you, we would love to hear more from you.
Okay. And what is 1106 Design? What is the 1106 part?
Well, I formed the company in 2001, and by that time there were no graphic design domain names left. So I used my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yes.
You just had a birthday. Yeah. So you also have a special guide called Publish Like the Pros, a brief guide to quality self-publishing. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And I'll tell people how to get it.
Sure. That is my lead magnet, and it's available in return for your email address on my website. It's just what I described. It's 88 pages. It's an overview of all the services that you need and why you need them. And I want, whether they work with us or not, I want every author to have a good experience publishing their book. And there's an awful lot of angst online. You can find the stories, and it's unfortunate, and it shouldn't happen as often as it does. So I want people to enjoy their book production and wind up with a good book.
Right. Amen. And you can get that book, that download at www.leadmachinegrowthshow, Publish Like the Pros. So, and that will be on the show notes page on the Lead Machine Growth Show website. And you'll be able to find this episode and many others. And while you're there, subscribe to your favorite network to the show. And remember, faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal. And until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyon and Michele DeFilippo. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate our conversation. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyon, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.